Hey everyone, today I want to talk about the moment I realized I had to change everything for my practice and how you can also change everything if you're on the verge of burnout like I was back then, and how you can make your practice or business hella successful like mine has been. All right, for those of you guys who have been following me for a while, my OGs, y'all may have heard some of these stories before, but let me take you back to the pandemic. When it first started, so I started my practice about 9 months before the pandemic started. And we were one of the first places in town, in my city, to get the COVID vaccine. Y'all remember that craziness when people were like flying in private jets to try to find the COVID vaccine so that they can do whatever they wanted to do or get it first? Yeah, it was a weird time back then. All right, but the news put it on there because it was public information who got the COVID vaccine, and we got the COVID vaccine. So the news, my local news agency, put it on the freaking news. And next thing I know, I got an email from an ex-patient of ours. We haven't seen him in like 9 or 10 months or something like that. This was, one of my first patients that I saw. And I don't remember anything like, he wasn't memorable in any way. Seemed like a nice guy at the time. Like, I honestly couldn't remember anything about him. But we get an email with him in his car staring at our office with a firearm in his lap saying, hey, he saw on the news that we're going to give out the COVID vaccine. And if we're going to do something stupid like that to perpetuate this conspiracy, he's going to show us something stupid. What the hell does that mean? I was terrified. Am I ever going to see my kids again? Is this guy going to like ambush me when I'm going to my car? I called the cops. The cops said since it wasn't a direct threat against me, there's nothing they could do about it. I had to freaking file a restraining order. It was an absolute disaster. So that primed the pump, right? I was like, oh my God, what am I doing with my life here? And there were so many things that COVID changed, and some of it hasn't gone back to better, that there was a lot of burnout going along with that. But the big event that just absolutely dramatically changed the way that my mindset worked with my practice is, I'll never forget, I had to take my daughter to the ER. She had severe belly pain to the point where she was throwing up, couldn't handle anything down. And it ended up being like this intussusception where, for those of you guys who are not medical, the bowel kind of telescopes on itself. And a lot of times in small kids, it can self-resolve. And luckily hers did self-resolve. Went into the ER, scariest moments of my life. If you have a kid, the first trip to the ER is always the most terrifying, especially as a physician where you're thinking like, holy crap, what can go wrong? How bad is this going to be? So I had to cancel my practice. Remember, it was just me. I'm a one-man show at this point in time. I did hire another physician, my business partner now, but she was just ramping up, and she was out actually on maternity leave. So it was just me. I was a one-man show. And I'll never forget that I had to cancel the practice. Someone left me a 1-star review that was on that day, and then I rescheduled him for the next day. And I remember telling him, I was like, hey, I'm so sorry. My daughter, I had to take her to the ER. And this guy just looks right at me and he's like, I don't give a shit about your daughter. My time is also important. I had to take time, cancel meetings, schedules out of my day to move this appointment. Now, are you going to do what I need to do for like my health and X, Y, and Z? Or what are we doing here? And that's when I realized, I was like, yeah, no, man. One, you're fired. Like, I get it. Your life is important. Your time is important. But I got a life too, right? I got a life. I got a daughter. I got a family, and stuff happens. And if you're not going to recognize that and at least work with me a little bit here, then this therapeutic relationship's totally broken. So I fired the guy. But I tell you what, that was the catalyst. That I was so burnt out, spending so many days being like, what the hell am I doing with my life? And then you know how, if you're burnt out, or if you've ever been burnt out, you kind of make these like half jokes of like, well, if the damn thing burns to the ground, like at least I'll collect the insurance money. Those kind of jokes of like, is it really a joke? Like, I'm not going to set the place on fire, but like mentally, if it all just went to the ground, I don't know if it would have been the end of the world, like where I was at in that point in time. And then a few weeks later, just another kick in the nuts at that point in time, I had a patient that like did not want to follow up. And I already talked to him about the risks and benefits of like putting him on a statin, right? Lipitor. So I sent in Lipitor for this guy. And next thing I know, I get a nasty email back that he's thinking about suing me because I didn't counsel him enough on the risk of it, because he had to take 2 days off of work because his muscles were hurting so bad. Meanwhile, I'm like, what did we spend that whole visit talking about? I sent all these messages back and forth through the portal. And then he made my life a living nightmare for about a month. Wanted me to just continue calling stuff in, switching meds up. Nope, not doing that again. That's why I'm not answering portal messages anymore. Someone ruins it for everyone. But I think I let people's emergencies be my emergency. And then I had to take a step back and think, okay, where's the problem? My problem is that there's burnout going on here. All right. I feel like I'm making these jokes. If the whole damn thing burns to the ground, who cares? At least I'll collect insurance money and I'll move on with my life. That's a problem. And with any business, you got to identify what is the problem. All right. If somebody complains, like let's say you have a staff member, a physician assistant, if they complain about the physician assistant, is it a fund and knowledge problem? Did they prescribe the wrong antibiotic? Is it a systems problem that your EMR didn't send it through correctly and there was some sort of error? It's up to you as a business owner to break it down and figure out what the hell's the problem. But I just remember like sitting there being like, okay, so I'm in Austin, Texas, and it's a lovely city, but there's a lot of tech here. And at its height, I mean, some of these people were kind of telling me what level of income they were making. And I was getting jealous, man. I mean, because I was sitting there being like, dude, you're 8 years younger than me and you're making twice what I'm making working from home just on a computer all day. And I'm sure your job is stressful, but you're not potentially getting sued for millions of dollars for every freaking visit that you have. So I was going down this like spiral of a space. And if you find yourself in that spiral, you need to get yourself out of it. And I'm going to tell you how to get out of it. There's a lovely book by Viktor Frankl. If you haven't read it, you absolutely should. Man Searching for a Meaning. One of the most powerful books you'll ever read. It's about a psychiatrist who survived the Holocaust. His whole family didn't, and his outlook on life. And one of his mantras of that book is happiness isn't obtained, it ensues. What I took from that is that if I quit my job and like moved on somewhere else, the problems of me not having the boundaries of just being like, no, this is a job. That's going to carry on to my next job, wherever the hell I'm going. So I need to identify the problem. The problem is that I let people's emergencies be my emergency. I let the work take time away from being with my family. I let so many boundaries get just broken down of patients calling me, complaining about something, thinking that I needed to fix the problem when the problem had nothing to do with me. A lot of times it was a problem was a patient had shitty insurance, or the insurance didn't want to pay for that CT scan and they wanted me to argue for like the 5th time on getting the CT scan approved. It's not happening. It's not my fault. All right. I don't make the rules. Also, I needed to say it's okay that some people aren't going to like you. I was stuck in making everyone else happy. And it was wonderful. I think at this point in time, I think 7 years in a row, I've been voted by my peers, not one of those crappy places that you vote or you pay for like the best physician in town. 7 years in a row, best physician in my hometown for primary care. Love it. I'm so grateful that my patients and other primary care docs have voted me for that. That's amazing. So the mindset, I sat down and said, what mindset do I have to shift? Because if I don't shift these mindsets, the burnout, the unhappiness, it's going to follow me to the next job. I'm going to still do the same damn things at the next job. Happiness isn't obtained, it ensues. Viktor Frankl. I had to stop pleasing everyone and protect what matters. I had to stop being a hero to every single patient and fix every single problem. And I had to start being a leader. I had to stop doing everything myself and I had to start building a business, build a team. I had to let people tell me, oh, your practice now sucks. Yeah, because I'm not picking up the phone and talking to you for an hour. Okay, I can't do that. I can't run a business and do that anymore. I had to post very clear standard operating procedures. I had to also say, these are strict policies. You cuss at me or my staff, automatic, you're gone. I don't care. You're allowed to have a bad day. I'm also allowed not to be a verbal punching bag, and my staff is also allowed that too. And you know what? My front desk has been with me 5 years. Practices only exist 6.5 years. Find another practice that has had that type of longevity for front desk. My manager has been with me 6 years. She joined me like 6 months after I started. There's so many people. My biller has been with me 5 years. Everyone has been so long with the company because I'm relentless about treating my patients really well, but also putting myself and my employees pretty much number one. Because if they're going to get abused verbally or physically, they're not going to stay around for long. You know, patients will always try to go around, oh, well, I'm going to talk to Brad. He wouldn't have done something like this. This came up once recently, right? Oh, Brad would have just sent this medication in and would have done it. Yeah, I would have done that maybe 6 years ago when I had poor boundaries, when I was burnt out, when I was absolutely miserable. And that's never going to happen again. That chapter in that period of the business closed. And if you're burnt out, happiness isn't obtained, it ensues. Why? Figure out the problem in your business or your life to figure out where is the bottleneck. All right? If you're drowning in patient portal messages, stop doing work for free. At some point, I had to take a look in the mirror and say, yeah, I'm part of the problem. All right? I'm part of the problem as to why I was getting freaking burnt out and getting jealous at these tech bros that were making twice as much money as me. Then once I finally created these boundaries, policies, Hard lines. You don't like it, you can go somewhere else. I love what I do. I have a great panel. And the weird thing is that my business has just become insanely more financially successful. We're seeing almost 1,000 new patients a month. And I've stopped seeing new patients unless it's like a family member or a very close friend of a patient that I see. I'm not taking any new patients. Everyone else is going to see them. And in a weird way, it's benefited me because now I just have this like super loyal following that if I just take a day off, they're like, I hope you enjoyed your day off. I'll wait for you as long as you need. No problem. That's awesome. That's lovely. At this point, like, I feel like now that I've closed my panel, I've got some really extremely, I've got 2 billionaires that I see as patients. I've got some really VIP individuals that also see, when they roll together in the same circles, they all tell them like, oh, you got to go see Brad. That's also nice validation that I see a lot of physicians as patients. I see a lot of high net worth individuals as patients. And I've been voted the best physician in my town 7 years in a row now. That's awesome for primary care. None of that would have meant anything if I would have closed my practice down. Happiness isn't obtained, it ensues. I had to create those boundaries and protocols, and that's what you need to do. Figure out the problem. If you're doing notes instead of with your family time, maybe you need to hire someone. Maybe you need to hire a PA. Maybe you need an NP. Maybe you need extra help. Maybe you need a virtual assistant. You have to think in terms of problems and solutions, because otherwise you're going to think like, oh, well, maybe if I switch to a new job, it'll be different. No, it won't. What's that saying? Everywhere you go, there you are. Unless you change your ways and your boundaries, everywhere you go, there you are. The one thing I want to highlight, I love my patients, my current panel. They're so amazing in every way. I didn't lose compassion. I'm not saying that everyone needs to be fired, screw everyone. I didn't lose compassion. I just started treating myself first. I just let other people's emergencies not be my emergency anymore. And I started figuring out the root problem of what's going on. A new fellowship wouldn't have solved it for me. I wouldn't have changed my ways. Changing to like getting a new a classification on obesity medicine or something, that wouldn't have changed. I was even thinking about these things. Hell, at one point, I signed up for the University of Texas at Austin. I signed up to be a freaking coder. And I taught myself Python, JavaScript. I was like, yeah, screw it. I'm going to go work for Facebook. I'm going to just quit medicine altogether. It's not the answer. Happiness isn't obtained, it ensues. Other people's emergencies need to stop being my emergency. If I would have changed the tech, if the website went down, I would have made that my emergency. I think you can apply this to anything. If you're struggling with like doing notes late at night or feeling like you got to do your front desk job, you need to take a high level step back. You can obsess and zoom in, but you got to zoom out and observe. What is the theme here? What is the solution to the problem? And that's how you can be as successful as I've been doing and have the free time. Now I only see patients twice a week and I'm making more money than I ever made as a hospitalist. And I'm making twice as much as I ever made, almost 3 times as much as I ever made as a hospitalist, working 2 days a week. All right, you guys, that's my rant on that today. I hope you guys learned something. I'll be back every week. Thank you guys so much for following along and all the kind comments. If you want to consult with me, I'll leave a link down below. Thank you so much for everything. And I'll see you all in the next one. See y'all later.